Good afternoon, internet. It's been a bit of a long break in between videos, and I do apologise for that. The list of issues is long, but basically we can blame everything on Windows and Microsoft, and then I can blame them on my phone company, who... Well, no, I can blame it on the weather, because there was a huge amount of rain in my area, more than we've ever had on record, apparently, and the exchange where my phone line is connected filled up with water, and a whole lot of phone lines went out. Because I have ADSL, I didn't have internet for 10-ish days or so either, so that made life interesting. And I reinstalled Windows and yada yada yada. So that's basically why I haven't made a video for a little while. I'm very sorry. But I have another game of Dota 2, and I do enjoy this game. And it seems to look better every time I play it for some reason. I don't change the settings. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just when... So this is in the observer mode now. Maybe when you're playing you don't notice. I don't know, but there's just so many cool looking things. Anyhow, good job, Valve. Their next game engine will be coming out sometime sooner or later as well. Oh, tree. Tree's gonna die? Is he? Yeah. Oh, he's nearly dead. Yeah, tree's dead. Mirana's probably... There she goes. And the dire side picks up 2 kills for free. Anyway. Oh, lion dewarding. Very smart. So anyway, I'll get on to the topic of my video. In Australia, there is a lot of money in the mining industry. It's our biggest industry, I think. On the Australian Stock Exchange, the biggest companies are mining companies and the major banks. Anyway, there's one particular billionaire by the name of Andrew Forrest, aka Twiggy, and he's... I forget the name of his company. I think it's Fortescue Metals or something. Gold and iron. They pull stuff out of the ground and sell it overseas. Oh, gets another kill, fairly even. And yeah, so he's a very successful guy, tends to be in the news, one of the country's richest people. And anyhow, he had this interesting thing happen to him where he became aware. He's been in this business for years, right? So he's not new to it, and his kids have almost grown up and all the rest. He came to realize that in a lot of the supply chains in his business, his suppliers employed people under oppressive slave-like conditions, and it started to really disturb him. Where is it? I've got a report here from what's called the Australian Prayer Network, and I've followed it up in other places as well. Where does it start? The guy met the Pope. He's got different religions involved. There was one particular thing that happened. Where is it? It doesn't say how he became aware of it, but his daughter apparently worked in an orphanage in India for a while, and him and his wife went to see his daughter in India, and just to see the orphanage and what she was doing and all of that, and it just shocked him. There were these kids like under 10 years old being sold as sex slaves, and sometimes when the orphanage was lucky, they were able to find out about it and kind of rescue them, or kids would just suddenly appear on their doorstep, and it really shook him, and so it motivated him to look into the issue further, and he tried to get his suppliers to sign some kind of affidavit to not employ slaves or not use slave labor, and some of them really had a hard time signing it, and he was pretty disgusted by that, and so this billionaire, he stepped down as CEO of his own company, which is a big deal. He's still on the board, according to reports, but he just doesn't want to deal with these other people anymore. And so he ended up at the Vatican and met the Pope, a bunch of other corporate leaders and whatnot, to discuss global slavery. There's a bunch of foundations. The Pope even said that by 2020 he wants to see slavery beaten and eradicated, or mortally wounded, his words, beyond recovery by 2020. So he met at the Vatican, a bunch of global leaders and whatnot, and then now Andrew Forrest has this foundation. Oh, geez, Phoenix was harder to kill than normal. Anyway, so this Walk Free Foundation, he's got... What has he got? So he's got from Egypt. He's got a Muslim cleric. What is it? The Grand Imam of Al Azhar, who's named Ahmed Al Tayeb, which is apparently a very high scholarly authority amongst Sunni Muslims. There's the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, on the board. What else? I don't know, a bunch of others, but just an unexpected mix. You wouldn't expect. Yeah. And he's got all these... They're treating it like a business. The sound on the game's going to disappear for a second. Hang on. While I go through this report. So here's some of their metrics they're going. So he wants the global faiths to remove any slavery-related organizations from their supply chains and investments. So like churches and church bodies, mosques, I guess, religious-backed universities and that sort of thing. Political leaders to slavery-proof government supply chains. So here's the thing with big business. A lot of our stuff, so the microphone I'm using and the computer and the desk I'm sitting at and the food I eat and the trucks it was made to ship it in from the farms to the shops to get it to my house. So they all represent global supply chains. And like an Apple Mac or Apple are in the news for this every now and then with their plants in China. There's all these human rights violations against the companies who make the stuff we use every day, and you wouldn't even believe how prevalent it is, but it is. And it's the same with government supply chains. So there's this number here of 162 governments, which is all but that would be every country but the poorest, I imagine, and 30 heads of state to endorse the network. That's the Walk Free Foundation, I think it's called. There was another one. No, there's the Global Freedom Network, which this Australian billionaire, Andrew Forrest, he's a part of it, but his thing is the Walk Free Foundation. There you go. 50 major multinational businesses commit to slavery-proofing their supply chains. And that's a big deal because it's very hard to get corporations to commit to human rights things when it hurts their profits, because that raises labor costs, which then raises the cost to us when we go to the shops, which isn't a bad thing. We really don't need half the crap I've got, or half the crap you've got, or we've got. And to quote Mr. Andrew Forrest, he says, "This is set up like a high-achieving, measurement-driven, totally target-oriented company." Except it's a not-for-profit. It's like a hard-edged business. Hard-edged, people. Hard-edged business. "We are out to defeat slavery. We are not out to feel good." I'm still quoting here. "This is our mission." End quote. There you go. So I thought that was a pretty cool story of someone in a position of... We'll go back to the game. Look at this guy, Bloodseeker. Hang on, I'll come back to the thing in a minute. This guy is such a pain in the backside. Come here. Timber 2 Pro, yeah. Hang on, let me... So this guy, where is he? Yeah, this guy. So he can see when you lose all your health, or when you're down to half, he can see you anywhere on the map. So you've got the fog of war there, so you can see people here where it's light, but not over here, unless you walk over there. I mean, I can see stuff because I'm in observer mode, but when you're playing the game, you can't see that. So this guy's really useful because he can see right now this tree on the map. Well, he's right in front of him, but if this tree were to go and hide down here somewhere, you could still see him. So annoying, but so fun to play with. Anyhow, so what I wanted to bring up about this guy's a Christian too, by the way. Sorry, I should have started with that. I didn't know that. I only found out recently, and I don't know what his particular beliefs and doctrines are, or exactly what church he's a part of. I don't think he's Catholic. Maybe he is. Maybe that's how he got to go meet the Pope. I don't know. Anyhow, still a fairly close game, but he's still... I think I've noticed in the Bible that it doesn't seem to me as though God, as presented in the Bible, really has a problem against people in wealth, of great wealth or great power. Like Jesus never really criticized people for being wealthy. And he never criticized the Pharisees for being in power. He criticized them for using it to the disadvantage of those who didn't have power. He didn't even criticize them for being higher up the social hierarchy at the time. It was just that others were kept out of the club because they couldn't meet all the rules and things like that. And the same goes with money. In fact, so Solomon in his time was very wealthy, and a bunch of his books are kept, of his writings, sayings in the book of Proverbs, all kept in the Bible still. And with the Old Testament prophets, it's not that they ever said you need to not be wealthy. King, you've got too much gold. King Hezekiah, you need to get rid of it. That was never the message. The message was that it's not right for the weak, the needy, the widows or the orphans. It's not right for them to go without when you're doing well. That's the thing. So you can be successful and all of that, but if you start to oppress people who don't have what you have, then that seemed to be what set God off, or what set off the prophets at least. So I thought that was pretty interesting and worth mentioning. I think those in positions of wealth and influence get unfairly hated. Like, yeah, I get that you might be jealous. I want my own jet as well, which I don't have, and I want a supercar and 100 investment properties all over. That'd be fun, and I don't have that. But there's you're not evil just because you've got more than someone else. And I think it's just too easy to blame our problems on the rich. But here is an example of a guy who's very well off by any standards in any time in human history, and is using his influence for the good of those in need. And I think that's exactly what Jesus would have wanted from someone in his position. He saw a problem, he became aware of a problem, and he thinks it's wrong, i.e. he became aware of the slave labour in his supply chain and in his own corporate empire, and has set about doing something about it. And that's great. Instead of extending the use of slave labour to advance his own profit, he's willing to probably pay a higher financial price for the good of those who are vulnerable. And I think that's exactly in the spirit of Jesus, and exactly like Jesus came to set people free in every way that a person can be set free. And in this case, in Twiggy's case, it's employment and living conditions. Yeah. Anyway, go and play Dota 2. If you wanted to look up anything about Andrew Forrest, you'd want to go to Fortescue Metals, that's his company, or the Walk Free Foundation, which is his foundation. And then there's the Global Freedom Network, which is the thing him and the Egyptian Imam are a part of, and the Archbishop of Canterbury. Anyway, I've been Acoustic Pants. Please subscribe, and I'll hope to see you next time in less time than 1 month. Alright, see ya. 10-ish days or so either. So that made life interesting. And I reinstalled Windows and yada yada yada. So that's basically why I haven't made a video for a little while. I'm very sorry. But I have another game of Dota 2, and I do enjoy this game. And it seems to look better every time I play it for some reason. I don't change the settings. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just when... So this is in the observer mode now. Maybe when you're playing you don't notice. I don't know, but there's just so many cool looking things. Good afternoon, internet. It's been a bit of a long break in between videos, and I do apologise for that. The list of issues is long, but basically we can blame everything on Windows and Microsoft, and then I can blame them on my phone company, who... Well, no, I can blame it on the weather, because there was a huge amount of rain in my area, more than we've ever had on record, apparently, and the exchange where my phone line is connected filled up with water, and a whole lot of phone lines went out, because I have ADSL, I didn't have internet for things. Anyhow, good job, Valve. Their next game engine will be coming out sometime sooner or later as well. Oh, Tree's gonna die? Is he? Yeah. Oh, he's nearly dead. Yeah.